time. Sometimes we get half a dozen, but a lot of people tend to watch it after.
Oh, okay. So don't be disheartened if no one's watching, basically.
There we go, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we're live right now, Colin. We're live.
Oh, how exciting.
In the world. It's
live from Runcorn.
exciting.
I never thought anybody would
live
ever say that.
From Runcorn. And also Warrington.
Yeah.
So it is a Monday evening. What a bloody good way to start the week, frankly. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm going to sort of introduce you, and then I'm going to let you fill in the gaps, really.
Okay.
Because there are many. So, Rebels from Rule Breakers, this is Mr. Colin HAVEY. And hey, Facebook user, can't see who you are, by the way, because I don't think you've given StreamYard permission. So either put your name in the end of every comment or give permissions from
that might be
Facebook.
the name.
Well, you never know. Facebook.
Change it like Ripley.
Yeah, that's true. That's quite possible.
Might change the name to Facebook user. Don't assume. It's the first rule.
Very true.
You never assume anyone's name or gender or anything else.
Absolutely right. This is the world we're in.
Yeah.
So Colin and I used to work in what I affectionately know as the big glass house.
Yeah. The greenhouse, whatever.
Yeah, indeed. So that was a long time ago. So that was just for the benefit of the tape, everybody. That was at the time O2, which is now Telefonica O2 / Capita / God knows what else.
Yeah. Well, it was Martin Dawes, I think, wasn't it, when we first?
It was originally, and then BT Cellnet Lumina, and then O2, and then O2 Telefonica, and now I think is it the other way around now? I don't know.
I think it's but then most of the buildings it's Capita.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Yes. One of our Master Rebels MK is Capita Bod, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I left there in 2009.
Right.
So it's been a while since I actually saw you, hasn't it?
And well, yeah.
It's been quite a while. MK.
No, we haven't changed a bit, have we?
We haven't changed a bit.
No.
And so essentially what's happening right now, Col, is we're having a massive catch up after God knows how many years. Yeah. And the world is just going to witness it. So that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. There's something incriminating comes out. You never know.
Something always does.
Those 2 days were pretty wild.
So tell us what the heck you've been up to in the last few years. Tell people who you are. What is Colin HAVEY all about these days? Tell us anything.
Okay. Well, so I'm Colin HAVEY, as Emma so eloquently put. Former colleagues at O2 for like 7, 8, 9 years, whatever, and I left. Because I hated, in the end, I loved it for years, right? And then in the end, I really started to hate it, and I started to hate myself for it. I became quite miserable to be around, which is the way you've introduced me and very kindly said that was always quite fun to be around. And I prided myself on that, and I wasn't for a while. And I let it get to me, so I thought, okay, I don't like doing this job. Don't like working in telecoms. Don't like selling mobile phones. So I had the brainwave of going to do the same job for somebody else on a bit less money, because that's the kind of tool that I am. I just thought, I just needed to chat. I just needed to leave, and I thought this would be the right thing to do.
Yeah. Were you a bit like me, that you were like so much in your comfort zone that it actually became a little bit self-destructive?
No, I wasn't comfortable. I hated it.
Right.
It really wasn't. I suppose comfortable in the fact where it was easy.
Yeah.
It was 10 minutes from my house. The money was good for the area. But I was just working with people that I just didn't get on with. I tend to get on with everybody. But I just ended up around people that I just couldn't get on with. They just weren't I don't think they were particularly pleasant. And it got to me too much. So I just ended up leaving. And I had a really... if you can see this poster behind me here. Because you're confused. That's the way.
Oh, that looks really good.
Yeah, that was my Edinburgh show, and a lot of the stuff was in my Edinburgh show.
Brilliant photo.
It's called 2012, because the year I left 2011, and I got sacked from the first job. So I was there. Well, say sacked. I was there. They didn't pass probation because I just couldn't do the job. Wasn't hard-nosed enough. Then I went to work in recruitment, which is the equivalent of selling your soul to the devil.
I can't imagine you doing recruitment at all.
No, it was. I got in there. Well, I had to get a job basically because I left O2. Then I had this job for 3 months. got let go from there. So the first job that came up was recruitment. I thought, it's great. I love working with people. I love helping people. It's a perfect job. It became very apparent it was more about shafting people than helping them. It was just, what money can you get out of them? My boss would look at people's CV and go, no, they're shit, just put it in the bin. It's like, you can't do that.
You know, it's a shame as well because there's some amazing recruiters out there, but there are a lot of bad ones that give them a bad name.
Yeah, so it didn't work. I had a really rough time. The point, the reason I showed you a post there wasn't just because I wanted to show you a picture of myself. It was all mentioned in the show because I fell into quite a lot of debt that year because I was earning half the money. Got a house that I rent out that I kept on getting bloody trashed. So I guess, long story short, fell into loads of debt. Ended up within 12 months of leaving O2, I was working on a industrial estate just outside Appleton Thorn, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Working in a porter cabin.
Near my neck of the woods.
Ah, yeah. I ended up working in a porter cabin on minimum wage, just filing and making cups of tea for the manager. Just working with a load of engineers that were just repairing plant machinery for like building sites and the big diggers and dumpers.
Yeah.
Well, I went for it was all right. Bloody culture shock.
I bet it was.
But it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened, really. Because they took me on full time, and then the money wasn't great, but for 12 months I had no stress. I wasn't working in sales. I had no money either, by the way. But then over the years, I just started doing more and more stuff. I started dipping me toe into the world of comedy. And then, that just progressed. From there, there's all kinds going on. We could do hours. But
I love it. So tell me how did comedy kind of start to creep into or how did you creep into its world? Like, where did that come from? Well,
I'd always fancied it. Right, this is an old working class thing. You hear loads of people talking about this that have got those kind of jobs. I've heard it a lot in comedy where you just think, you see comedians on the television and you think that those jobs aren't for the likes of me. There'll be loads of people, anyone who's watching, there might be jobs that they're doing or they want to do and you just think, no, I could never. You just think it's so far beyond your reach that you don't even try. But I've always loved it. But it started off, I tweeted Sarah Millican. And I just said, look, I'm looking to get into comedy. What can you suggest? So she just sent me a link to this club called the Frog and Bucket, which is in Manchester.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
Have you been there? Yeah, okay. So on a Monday night, I go quite. It's brilliant. It was horrible at the time, but when I first started doing it, there's a show on a Monday night. It'll be on tonight, actually, called Beat the Frog, and it's all about brand new comedians. So you get a 5-minute spot, but the catch is you get a maximum of 5 minutes. Because if the audience don't like you, then they throw you off the stage. Basically, it's called. They have these 3 cards with frogs on, and they give them out to the audience, and they just say, "Look, if you're not enjoying it, just put a card up." And then if you get 3 cards, off you go. Right. And the worst thing is, or one of the worst things, possibly the worst thing, is that as you're walking off, they play "Loser" by Beck.
Oh my god, that's
it's horrible.
That's
and you got to actually, you can't just you don't just walk off back through a curtain backstage. You walk through the audience. You get back to the bar because we just kind of congregate at the bar. And everyone's going, "You're a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me?" As you're walking off.
My god, that's just so brutal.
You wish somebody
this
would.
It's like the classic thing, though, isn't it, with comedians that start out? I mean, how many big comedians are there out there that have got stories about absolutely dying in that scenario?
Oh, there'll be loads. I mean, I don't know if anybody out there is interested in comedy, but I would say the majority of Northwest comedians that are coming through now, certainly from 2010 onwards, they would have done that club. There's loads of us. There's like a guy called Chris Washington, who's amazing. He's been on television a couple of times, and I think he will be one of those. He's kind of like a Jason Manford type, working class here. Well, he'd done it not like a year or 2 before I did. So it's just good grounding.
Yeah.
Do you think
you need that to be like a proper resilient comedian? Do you think you need to have been through that horror?
Yeah, not necessarily. Some people do, I guess. Others, you hear stories like Peter Kay, who just took to it like that. Some people are just naturally gifted to be able to just write loads of material, perform it, not get nerves. Whereas others, it's certainly done. It stood me in good stead. Even though I constantly got kicked off, like so many times, got booted off. Because I just thought, well, I'd write 5 minutes of material and then just think, well, it wasn't the fact that I speak a million miles an hour, which is becoming apparent now. It wasn't the fact that the jokes weren't very good, or it wasn't the fact that I couldn't deliver them. Oh, sorry, it wasn't the jokes. It was the way I was doing it. So I just write another 5 minutes worth of jokes and go back again. Instead of thinking, well, why don't they just take a couple of minutes of those jokes and just, add them to something different? I was like, no, a different 5 minutes every time. So then eventually what I started doing was going to, instead of doing this Beat the Frog, I just heard it because I genuinely didn't know there was a comedy scene out there of open mic nights and stuff. So I put my name down for a place in Warrington called the Orford Hotel, which you may or may not know, in Orford, obviously. And I got a 10-minute spot. So I thought, right, I don't have to worry about getting chucked off the stage anymore. I can just go, relax.
You just do have to worry about the fact it's in Orford.
You have to worry about, you don't have to worry about getting chucked off the stage, but you do worry that, you might not get out of this later life. But it was just funny. It was a funny pub, like it was nice. The bloke who run it was nice. The bloke who run the pub was a bit odd. And in the end, the two people, the promoter and the owner, fell out. But the owner wanted to carry on doing comedy, so we started doing comedy and strippers.
Oh my god!
So you go to a comedy
like in one person or like two?
No, separate turns. So like at the end of the show, there'd be loads of these women walk. I never done it at that point. I don't need to be doing any of this nonsense. And then so you do a comedy night, and then you have a photo shoot with all these women with next to nothing on.
Oh my god, that's so.
It became really odd, but yeah,
that's hilarious.
So when I started doing 10-minute spots open, then I really started. I went like that I can't get used to the fact that I go the opposite way because you told me about that before, but I forgot. Yeah, I went on quite a fast trajectory really and started getting on pro lineups and stuff.
That's brilliant.
But, yeah.
So did you find, so I was thinking when you were saying before about, you kind of tried loads of things out and you'd, comedy act wise, and you tried different material and you just kept going back and going back.
Yeah.
Do you think when you find something that actually really thrills you and, is kind of maybe what you're meant to be spending your time doing, that somehow it makes you more resilient to keep going back and failing?
Yeah, for me, definitely for me, because we might touch on this later. I don't know. It was basically, I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like the jobs that I was doing. I couldn't see I didn't want to be a manager. I didn't want to get on in these kind of jobs. To me, comedy was the escape route. I initially done it because I wanted to be a script writer, and I thought I've written a few scripts, had a few plays on at the Brindley and stuff, sent a few scripts off to television. And I thought if I'm doing comedy, then it'll get me writing more. I'll be able to get networking, and then I'll become a sitcom writer. So I needed to escape from that world, and that was the only way I could see that I could do it. So that I didn't have any discernible skills. That's discernible. No, it's discernible scary, isn't it? Is that the right word? Discernible
skills is a correct thing to say.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't have a trade or anything. So this is what I need. I need to do this now because I need to get out of this life that I've got. Because it wasn't miserable or anything, but professional life, it wasn't for me. So I kind of got the bug, and I thought, right, this is my escape route out of mediocrity, if you like. So that's what kept me going. Just kept that drive to just think, okay, well, the only one person is going to change your life. Nobody else can. Plenty of people can stop you from trying. Well, can stop you from succeeding, I guess, but no one can stop you trying anything.
That's so true.
Out there. It doesn't matter. You might be total shite at it. It doesn't matter. Nobody can stop you giving it a go. Only yourself.
I massively agree with that. I think there's a lot of people that stop themselves doing things just in case it's not perfect, or they fail, or it's not the thing that they do forever and ever. When we did our interview last week with Kay, she was saying, I just try things, and if I like it, then cool. And if not, I'll move on to something else. And it's this concept that we can have fun with life if we want. We can jump from one thing to another if we want. Who's to say that we can't? Like, where's the rule that says we have to pick a career and carry on with life?
To counter that, though, what I would maybe say is it all depends how long you try it for. So you try something and fail, doesn't mean to say that's not the right thing to do. It's just think about what you've done, why it didn't work, and change it. Maybe not chop and change so much. Everyone's different, obviously, but just because it didn't work the first time, just try a different route, a different way of doing it, and then eventually,
I agree.
You'll find there's a saying by Charlie Chaplin. It's failure is unimportant. It takes courage to make a fool of yourself.
Oh, I like that. Say that again for us.
Failure is unimportant.
Failure
it takes courage to make a fool of yourself.
Ah, that's so true.
Well, it's one of those memes. It might have been, I don't know, it might have been somebody's Auntie Nora, but it's a credit to Charlie Chaplin, but I'd imagine it was. And it's like, was it fall off a horse 7 times, get up 8, or something like that? Fall off 8 times, get up 7, something like that. But
I really like that.
Just got to keep going and keep going, and you never know. You never know where it's going to take you. I obviously, there's a good friend of mine, Harriet Dyer, who would be quite interesting to see if we can get to come do this. She's very busy now. And she said to me, when you start out in any path, like, so I started out in comedy, you start out to become like a famous stand-up comedian, right? That's the whole goal. But then it can take you in different directions. There's people who have started off in comedy now who have gone on to be agents, comedy agents. So mate of mine, Adam Rushton at Rush of Laughter Management. There's people who've gone into acting, people who've gone into sitcom writing, but they started off initially out to be a comedian, but you don't know which path it's going to take you. Now I've become a comedy promoter instead. So
tell us how that. So what about that journey then? How did that happen? How did you get from, the frog and bucket days to now doing promoting? And you do a good line in comparing as well, don't you? And all that.
I compare them all, yeah. So there's multiple reasons really. The first one was there's not really, well, there is now, but there wasn't. There seems to be a shortage of good gigs, basically for comedians. There's a lot of promoters out there who don't really care. They'll just put a gig on a pub, get paid 200 quid by the landlord. Don't pay anybody, just put a shit night on.
Yeah.
But I wanted to put, well, there's loads of amazing ones as well. But there was a bit of a shortage. So I thought, right, that we need to put a proper gig on in my community or in the area where I live. First of all, to give comedians somewhere decent to perform. I wanted the audience to enjoy it as much as the acts. A nice, comfortable space, nice atmosphere. Everyone's up for it. The community, the venue behind it and stuff. Second of all, from a selfish point of view, I wanted to give myself more work because I wasn't getting as many bookings as I wanted. Because you kind of, I started off on I genuinely, I'm not blowing smoke up my own trumpet here, but when I first started, for the first 12, 18 months, everyone was talking about me. Everyone's like, you've got a book, Colin.
Yeah.
Because
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing inwardly at blowing smoke up your own trumpet.
My own trumpet, yeah.
You've morphed 2 phrases together in a really beautiful way.
That's what I do. I used to like me off, that's pretty good. But so I started off doing really well. I went on down the country doing it. Like, I was getting on. I was going to London, Brighton, went on a ferry as well. I was doing festivals. It was really good, but then it kind of, what happens is, when you start off, if you're not shit, you get quite a few gigs. Yeah. Well, I started getting paid within like 12 months, which is unheard of. But then what happens is you get to a level, and then it becomes really competitive, and you're mixing with the bigger names. And then I know as a promoter myself that if somebody I don't know, if I've got a gig and I'm looking for a middle act to come do 10 to 15 minutes, which I would have been, you get 2 names. I don't really know one, but I know the other one's really good because they're normally headlining, and then you go with them. So it just becomes much more competitive. And unlike pretty much every industry, is nobody ever quits. So the openings don't come up. No one's a top headlining comedian goes, oh, you know what? I actually fancy just working on the buses for a bit.
Yeah.
No one leaves. It's just like
it's not like a progression like you would get in a normal job, is there? Like you don't backfill. Someone leaves the vacancy, and
Yeah, it's like if you get a manager's job in work, it's because your manager's left.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen. So then it becomes ultra competitive, and it's that point really where you have to pack everything in and just go full tilt. But you can't when you've got a mortgage and debts and stuff. You can't do that. So I kind of realised that first of all, I was good at comparing because I prefer just talking to people and having a bit of a laugh. And it was like I was getting quite anxious over it because it's really hard. Like if you're not gigging, you feel guilty. Right. Okay, I've not got a gig tonight. Right. What I need to do is write some jokes. Then when I've stopped doing that, I need to apply for some gigs, and you just don't rest at all.
I suppose like that creative stuff as well. If you like slot in some time to be creative and write funny stuff, that's feels a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Because you have to force it, switch that energy on from nowhere, and creativity often isn't timed, is it? Like it doesn't adhere to a schedule.
No, I don't know how all comedians do it, but for me, it would just be like somebody would say something in work, or I'd hear something in a pub or something, and you put a note in your phone.
Yeah.
And I could never write something. I'd write the idea down, but then I'd have to perform.
Yeah.
I'd have to go over it. I've spent many a time pacing up and down my apartment here, just coming up with things like just ironing it out, and then you go and try and test it. Yeah, but it got to the point where if I wasn't doing anything about it, I just couldn't relax. I couldn't just sit down and watch a film or go to the cinema.
Right.
But no, I can't. But so when I started comparing, put my own nights on, then that kind of switched off because I haven't written a joke for about 3 years.
See, I always think that looks like the most. You watch things like Live at the Apollo and all that kind of stuff. I always think that the person who does the comparing bit, or Royal Variety or anything like that, that looks like the most fun part of it to me.
Yeah.
You're gluing the things together almost. You're being that sort of figurehead of, sort of connecting the dots together. I think that looks really, really fun.
It is, yeah. It is. It's really liberating because you get some comedians that are brilliant with crowds, just really naturally funny with the crowds. But a lot of promoters don't like it. They like see somebody doing like a proper written, thought out 20-minute set, so it can hold a lot of people back. Like there's some amazing just like improvising comedians that can just rip it, but then you get some promoters who are compares as well. They don't want somebody getting up and comparing the crowd because it makes them look a bit shit. But I don't care. Most important thing for me is that everyone's laughing.
Yeah. And that I suppose what is always in the enduring appeal with comedy, even though fashion's changing comedy, I'm sure it's that ability, isn't it, to take people out of their real life for that performance.
Oh,
that's quite magic, isn't it? The ability to do that.
I love it. Like I get quite emotional sometimes when I'm up on stage thanking everybody because I just love the thought that I've created something that has given people what I like to think an amazing night out, or at least a good night out.
Yeah.
You got to think. I used to work at the Brindley Theatre, and you got to think some people, for multiple reasons, may only be able to get out of the house once a year, once every 6 months, for whatever reason, family reasons, money reasons, whatever. So I owe it to them to make sure that they have the best night that they possibly can, because they deserve it. So I put everything into it to make sure that they do.
That's a really good way of seeing it.
Yeah, because nothing's more important than that. The money's not important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't say to the bank if you're foreclosing on your mortgage that you're.
I'll tell you a joke instead.
You get some people you get a lot of people, especially when you're a comedian. You'll know it because you were in bands and stuff, weren't you? How many times when you and your band were offered a gig? Oh, there's no money, but it'd be good exposure for you.
Oh, that used to piss me
the bank. I can't pay the banking exposure, can I? It really annoys me. Can't say
really not. I mean, if you're doing a charity gig, something like that, fine. But don't give me this nonsense of exposure just so you can get more money over the bar.
Where's the exposures? But even like a load of comedians and promoters have said, someone will put a post on looking for the acts to do a comedy night. There's no fee because it's for charity, and then people will make the point saying, well, the bar staff are not getting paid. Is the venue giving away free beer?
Yeah.
They're still getting paid.
Yeah.
These people are doing.
What would happen if I wasn't doing my slot? Would people still come in anyway?
They still get paid. People still, for charity or not, people still need to be paid. Because they're not the only ones who are doing it for nothing.
Yeah. I suppose it's things like I imagine comedy early days is not dissimilar to being in cover bands in the sense that you don't do it to pay the bills because frankly it's less than minimum wage by the time it works out everything you do for
worse in a band.
You also don't do it to be mugged off.
No, But then at first you do, I think you just think, oh, this is the way, this is what you do. You just do all these gigs for free. But then you kind of realise really that hang on, you are just being had off here because everyone's making money apart from you. It's worse in a band because there's 4 of you. If I used to get paid, 50 quid to go and do a gig somewhere, then take my petrol out to still make a bit of money. In a band, you get paid 50 quid between 3 or 4 of you.
Yeah. And you're paid for rehearsal rooms every week.
Yeah, and it's your time as well. A mate of mine said that he's not a comedian. It's like what people don't think. Okay, you're being paid 50 quid, and at first you're like, oh my god, I'm being paid 50 quid to come and do 10 minutes. Yeah, but you've taken 3 hours to drive there. You've taken 3 hours back. You spent hours writing it and stuff.
Yeah,
works out. You're probably getting paid like 50p an
and
hour.
you might be hanging around while all the other acts are on, waiting for your slot.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and you finish the day's work and stuff. So exactly. I quickly realised another thing. The way I was starting my own gig, I realised I was just being mugged off by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when you start running a gig, you realise how much not loads of money, but that no promoters, go in skin really. Very rarely, especially sometimes you go in the room's full, or the room's empty and it's like £5 a ticket. Fair enough. But I've been to someone a Friday, Saturday. I done one at a club down in Brighton. Didn't get paid. 340 people in, paying £12 a ticket. I'm like, you could have given me 10 quid towards me petrol,
Yeah, at least paid me flipping expenses and bought me a drink. Yeah.
That's it. Well, I got free dinner, but I was too nervous to eat it. So
that's the thing, isn't it? I always used to find when I still sing and between bands at the moment, but when I'm gigging and people come and see you, they especially come to see you gig. And they want to come and talk to you and socialise with you. Actually, all I want to do is sit in a corner and psych myself up.
Yeah.
But you can't do that, and you've got to be polite. People that have come all this way to see you. It's really hard to strike that balance, isn't it? Because it drains, I think if you're creative and you're a performer, there's also usually a part of you, or quite often, not for everyone, a lot of the creative performers I know have got a really strong introverted side as well, and you need to build that energy so that you can do the thing on stage. You have to. It's like a preservation of all of that, isn't it?
Especially when you first start, you're going over your set. You've got a 10-minute set, because there's a few times I forgot it when I was on stage, so I was always terrified of that. So you just you go and you remember, and you have like little points where you kind of get to anything, right? Then this bit follows after that. Got people talking to you, like, oh god, stop sweating. I walked off stage once because I forgot my jokes. It was terrible.
Really? Oh god.
Yeah, it just didn't come to me. It was I'd spend the day with a mate, and so normally I'd spend the full day. I'd only been going about a year or two. Yeah, about a year probably. And I got on stage and it just didn't come to me at all. And someone even came and brought me my book, and the words just kind of melted onto the page.
Oh my god!
So I'm going to have to get off. So I walked off. But then the promoter, it was dead nice. He was a bit tight, really, when it came to money. But he was like, look, don't worry about it, it's fine. And then a comedian called Steve Harris, who was actually from Warrington, he was headlining, and he said that happened to me the other week. He'd been going like 20 years or something. He said, it happens to me. Don't worry about it. He said, go for a walk, go and clear your head, and come back. So I did, went for a walk. There was interval. Then the promoter let me go back on. And I remembered it all. It was the best thing I could have done. If I think if I hadn't gone back on and remembered it, I don't know if I'd have recovered from it.
Yeah. It's that thing, though, isn't it? As soon as you forget, all you can hear in your head is "I've forgotten," and it makes it worse because you're perpetuating that whole thing even more.
It just didn't come. I done that on my first ever gig at the Throwing Bucket. And my mate was filming it, and I forgot the next bit. I was, oh god, I forgot what to say next. And to me, it genuinely felt like a minute before I started again, but it was 10 seconds. And my mate showed me it back. I was like, oh my god, I thought because it never really registered with anybody. I mean, it didn't last much longer, to be fair, but no one was going, or anything. But to me, it felt like a lifetime, but it was like 10 seconds. But yes, that's the thing.
Oh, I bet. So have you seen Jack Horner do any of have you seen any of his videos in this group? So Jack Horner is a spoken word artist. We've got a couple.
Oh yes, I saw them. You've done
Yeah.
You've done with him, haven't you? I saw that.
I have, yeah. So I bet he can resonate with that massively. And I think it was. I seem to remember there was a bit when we went to his book launch gig, and he was like, "Oh, I've forgotten what the next line is," or something like that. And it just actually loosens the audience up even more. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. When I'm singing, I have an iPad like off to the side, and I can get away with that as a singer. But if you're a comedian, you can't stand there with a tablet or something, can you?
No, you can't. No, you can when you first start. You pretend, oh, I'm just doing some new stuff, but it really is. It's just the same old set, but you just need it.
Yeah.
But eventually, you can't do that. But it just comes back to you eventually. Thankfully, it never happened again after that.
So what have you got coming up then? I want to ask you about Giggle Shack and all of that stuff.
Yeah, so Giggle Shack, the award-winning Giggle Shack, no less, was voted the best independent comedy club in the Northwest.
Oh wow!
In 2020, and then COVID came. That was the end of that.
I mean, that has been just a nightmare for comedy, hasn't it?
Yeah, so many friends they were there full time. They just lost everything, and I know people that own clubs and stuff. And I was lucky because, I was kicking on to go full time with it, but I never did. But I know, so I was still able to work. I lost all the extra money from the comedy and stuff, but I was still able to keep going. But some people, just lost everything. People who were retrained, a good mate of mine, Steve Shanyaski, becoming an electrician. He was a top circuit headliner going up and down the country, doing a comedy store weekends and stuff. But then now he's an electrician, does both, because you never know if he's going to be taken away again.
Yeah.
So
God, it's true. These things we just never foresaw, did we?
No. It's always it's always in the back of your mind. Is it going to bloody come back again? But
yeah,
I hope that it won't. Who knows? So hopefully. So the Giggle Shack, yeah. So we've got. So I don't know where everyone's based. I'm guessing it's all around the UK, isn't it?
Well, we actually represent about 24 countries now, Col.
Oh, really?
Across the world, yeah. Okay. Mostly the UK, though.
Okay. Well, if you're ever in the area from wherever you are in the world, I'll buy you a pint towards your plane ticket if you're flying. So I've got 3 venues, 2 kind of main venues, one of which is just starting off. So we've got Helsby Sports Club, where from September onwards we're there every month. We've got September, October, November, December.
Oh, brilliant.
And then the Holiday Inn on October the 15th.
Where's that, sorry?
Holiday Inn, in Runcorn.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
Cheap room rates. If anyone wants to come stay over, you're very welcome. And then we have a small gig on Sunday night,
but not in that order.
Yeah. What was that? Sorry.
Have a laugh and then a sleep, but not in that order.
Yeah, please don't sleep.
Not in the other order. The opposite order.
Just laugh and then do what you want after that. I'm not bothered whether you sleep or not. I'll get you a drink. I'll be there. Yeah, and then we have a small one on a Sunday night in Society, which is like a new material type night, but that's always going really well. It's just
in Society. Say
Society in Runcorn, yes, like a cool little. You'd actually like it, Emma, if you ever came over this way.
Is that the place that's just literally yards away from Rippers?
Yes.
I've been in there. That's brilliant.
Oh, you have been in there then? Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
It's so cool.
Love that. So that's my local. I'm like.
It's like a little hidden gem, isn't it?
It is. I'm like 8 minutes away. I timed it the other week when I walked there. It takes me 8 minutes to walk there.
Brilliant.
That's another.
So how do people find out about this? Kind of get in there. Is it a ticketed thing?
Yeah, they're all ticketed. So it's Facebook. So it's just called the Giggle Shack Comedy Night on Facebook.
Yeah, we'll put in
on
link
Twitter.
for that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, on Twitter it's _Giggle Shack, and it's the same again on Instagram. _Giggle Shack on Instagram. So I post everything on there. Share all the links and stuff, ticket links. Or tickets are on jokepit.com.
Oh, it's a new one on me.
It's the ticket agency that I use. Excellent. So it's always a brilliant night out. I get the best acts from up and down the country. Really, it's got a good reputation because all the acts, the comedians always enjoy it because the audiences are really, really nice. Yeah. Everyone's up for a good laugh. You don't really get any idiots in. You don't get many hecklers really. Everyone's just dead supportive, dead nice. Really,
good.
It's a perfect atmosphere. Rippers have been to a few.
Yeah.
Just really nice atmosphere. It's just, you know, you'll have
I
a good
definitely
time.
want to come to at least one of them. Actually, I'm gonna do that, and perhaps me and Rippers will come and not tackle you.
Well, you know, feel free to try. I don't mind. Compare our like lots of heckles. We don't really get many of that. Much of that really. But if they do, I don't mind it.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what about? Am I right in thinking you also have a little other project or passion in the form of beer?
I do,
Tell
but
us
it's kind of the glass half full beer company. Optimism.
Oh, that's a great name. Really good. How is that not happened already? Like, that's just a perfect name, isn't it?
I know. Yeah, it works out pretty well. But yeah, so that's in a bit of a. I'm going to use another word I don't fully understand. In a hiatus at the moment. That's a suspended state, right? Is that right?
Really,
you get these words in there. I might say that it might mean something else. Might be in total decline, but I don't think so. Yeah, so it was a pop-up store on Widnes Market, just selling craft ale and German wheat beers and stuff like that.
Oh.
But it was pop-up store. But then they asked somebody wants to apply to move into the store full time. So they said to me, like, "Do you want to go full time with it?" But I just couldn't. There's not enough money in it, unfortunately. So they're quite expensive to rent the store and stuff. So
yeah,
I wasn't in a position to do it because of I'd got a few debts to pay off. Which goes back to my Edinburgh show. Keep forgetting that here.
I need to ask you about that. I need to know more about the Edinburgh show.
Yeah, we'll come back to it in a minute. Yeah, I'll give you a go. I might do it actually. If I remember it, it's only 45 minutes long, isn't it? If I can remember. But anyway, yeah. So, because I love craft ale, I started drinking more during lockdown. Only, not to say not drink. I wasn't drinking it every night. I was drinking it at the weekends, but started trying different beers from the supermarkets, and then I got to know a few different people that own breweries and stuff. My local has its own brewery, and I just thought, you know what, I'll just give it a go. Why not? There's plenty of places that do it in Liverpool, like tap rooms and stuff, or bottle shops as they call them, but nothing around here. So I thought, right, I'm going to get my personal license and just give it a go and see what happens. And it started off all right, tailed off a little bit, but then obviously I've got to move home because I can't take the store on full time. But it's difficult with booze because you've got to get a license wherever you move to, and it's bloody expensive. Like, it cost me £100 to get the license, and it's like £300 to put an advert in the local paper, which you've got to do because some like old ancient bygone law.
Really?
Yeah, you've got to advertise it in the local paper. You've got to put notice. You've got to put sign outside in case anybody wants to object.
What is this? The 1920s?
No, it's so weird. You know, there's a rule in York where if you're born in Yorkshire and you're within the walls of Yorkshire's like a wall. I don't know what you call it, like a wall town.
Yeah.
So within the walls, if you're born in Yorkshire, you can stab a Scotsman through the heart with a sword, and it's still.
I love that shit. It's still funny.
Legal.
It's some really weird laws.
And there's a street called Whip My Hop My Woman Street, where if your wife comes home drunk, you can go down there, and you can basically
give her a
hiding until she sobers up.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't know about that. Not if you come home drunk with your husband. But it's still one of those old mad laws.
Oh my god, that's just so odd, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's like whole websites full of that mad stuff in there.
Yeah, there's something in Chester as well about beating Welsh people up. That's allowed in a certain part of the city by some ancient law.
MK's saying, isn't it also legal to shoot a ginger with a bow and arrow? Where specifically? You need MK. Like,
yeah, well, that's not. I'm not ginger, so I don't have to worry about that. But I've got some ginger mates to make sure I don't go. Maybe that's who was that? Sorry,
that's from MK, one of our master rebels.
Yeah. MK's clearly got a problem with ginger people. You need to sort that out. Sort yourself out, MK.
They've got a in York apparently they said, MK, your nephew's ginger, isn't he?
I've just got a problem with him then. Well, yeah, I'll leave. There's not much I can do about that, MK. I'm
we'll
afraid.
Do some research on that one.
Let's find out where MK lives and just warn all the ginger people to be careful.
Coventry.
Coventry. Right, okay, yeah. Well, in Coventry, I suppose you've got to find something to do, haven't you? not much else going on. So there's actually, MK, there's a lovely comedian from Coventry called Josh Pugh. Check him out.
Do you know them, MK?
Brilliant.
Oh, nice one. You have to look that up.
He'll be on telly before long. He's really good. Yeah,
MK saying you could use him in your material, and I think they mean the nephew. Weird.
Right, okay.
The craft beer thing, is that still happening? Is it still a thing that you intend to pursue?
Yeah, I've got a bloody storeroom full of beer, so I need to. I'm just going to find some of the options really. But what I'm eventually going to do is I'm going to take the Giggle Shack into like village halls and church halls. So actually, if anybody out there, kind of northwest area, has a local village hall, because I've got a personal license to sell liquor, I could go and do a comedy night there, and I could run a bar as well.
That's a great idea.
That's what the plan is, but there's obviously problems with logistics and stuff like getting the stuff there and that kind of gear. So that's the plan for probably next year. I might look at doing that.
I wonder if we could have a license
rebel.
We could have a rebel comedy beer night.
Well, we can get some beer. There's actually a beer called Tiny Rebel, which is amazing. That's right, it's amazing. From South Wales, Newport.
Oh, that sounds brilliant. MK is now saying, not a clue. I was signed up to do a comedy night for cancer research, but my life's already a joke. Don't need to add to it.
All right, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, as long as you're leaving ginger people alone, that's the main thing. Just leave them alone.
So let's circle back to the Edinburgh stuff then. Tell me more
about
that.
Yeah. 2012.
Let's get that right in the shot. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
That is such a great poster. I love that picture.
Yeah, that was taken outside my house. Outside me flammable flat, which is another story we won't go into.
Your flammable flat?
Yeah, you've heard about all these apartments have got this combustible cladding on.
Ah.
So I live in one of them.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately, yeah. On the deck.
What's going to happen with that then?
Well, I'm quite fortunate because the one I live in is above 18 meters, so it qualifies to get the cladding removed.
Right.
So mine's eventually, I don't know when, it's supposed to have started in March, but this mythical money hasn't appeared yet. So I'm lucky, but there's 6 blocks of apartments on here. We won't go into too much detail because it's quite dull.
Do you own or rent?
I own it.
Right.
Another thing that was in there.
It's not like you can just walk away and go, well,
no. So because, I decided in 2006, someone suggested that because I wanted to move into a brand new apartment and they were building them down here. So my mate from it's not my mate anymore. I thought she'd binned me off, but she suggested, why don't you just try rent the house out that you've got and then move into the apartment? I was like, that sounds perfect. So done that, moved in here 2007, decided to rent the house out 2008, global financial crash, bosh, everything fell on its ass. So, so I ended up with that. And one of these apartments, I've got a mortgage on it of like X amount of tens of thousands of pounds. And one of the flats got valued at £1 a few months ago. And it only got valued as £1 because every financial transaction, some money's got to exchange hands. So it's just £1.
Oh my God.
It's practically worthless. But
that's crazy.
Yeah. It's the Tories for you.
The world is just so upside down.
No, it's crackers. I mean, it'll sort itself out. I mean, what are they gonna do anyway? You're gonna throw me on the streets?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully
don't worry about it too much. Control the controllables, as they say.
Exactly right.
I'll give you another quote from the Dalai Lama, who does me head in, by the way, because he's never done a day's work in his life.
Is he always coming round for a cup of tea?
No, he's like, don't worry about material things. You don't have to worry about them, do you? Everything's given to you.
Well, no, he lives on in pretty idyllic situation, doesn't he? From that
come do 12 hours at Eddie Stobart 7 days a week and see how bloody enlightened you are then. not having a go, like. Obviously I am. But he said anyway, if you've got a problem and you can fix it, then you don't have to worry about it. If you've got a problem and you can't fix it, then there's no point in worrying about it.
That is actually really spot on.
Yeah, but then some Aussie rules player said to me in Thailand in 2009, "What if you've got fucking AIDS I said, well, okay, that's a bit different, I suppose. You might worry
Yeah,
about that
there's
a little bit.
degrees, isn't there? It's all
But in
relative.
principle, I think the Dalai Lama obviously said that pre-AIDS, I would imagine. It's in the film 7 years in Tibet, but I suppose no, it's not irrelevant because if you still can't change it. So,
Well, I mean, I know if this is the second time we referred to Kay's interview today, but I mean, Kay, I don't know if you saw it. Kay's got blood cancer, and her attitude to that is, "It's been the best opportunity of my life," and so that massively reframes things, and
yeah.
But it is all relative, isn't it? You get lots of people who say, "Oh, well, my problems aren't anywhere near as bad as other people's problems," but we deal with the amount we can deal with, don't we? Not everyone. Just you're having trouble paying the bills doesn't mean that you're not allowed to feel stressed about that just because somebody else out there has lost all the family suddenly in a freak accident.
It is all relative. One of the things, one of my best friends died of cancer 2013. So after that, I'd always try to be quite positive anyway, but after that I just thought, so whatever situation I'm in now, like this one I'm in now with this bloody flammable flat, I always think, what's the worst case scenario in every situation, right?
Yeah.
If it doesn't involve you or somebody you love or care about dying, it doesn't fucking matter.
Absolutely right.
Doesn't matter, does it? Yeah. So I don't worry about, okay, I've got flammable cladding on me flat, got interest on my mortgage, it's worth £1. But if I lay at night worrying in a cold sweat, wouldn't wake up in the morning, all of a sudden it's gone. The problems are gone. It's exactly the same. Yeah. And like another quote from my mum, actually not the Dalai Lama.
Who's wiser, your mum or the Dalai Lama?
Yeah, my mum. Your mum makes better scouse. I know that. I've never had Dalai Lama scouse. He might be good at it, but I doubt it.
Who knows?
Never cooked to me.
If anyone's ever had the Dalai Lama scouse, please let us know.
Yeah, drop us in there. Yeah, he might have made the odd pot of green tea, but I doubt he's done much else. But my mum said worrying about not having any money doesn't get you any more. So
that's true.
I don't know too much about that either. I feel like a wise old that will hear all these things I'm knocking out.
I know. Look at you churning all this good stuff out for us all on a Monday night.
I'm very entertaining with pubs.
MK wants to know what scouse is. See, it doesn't translate past the Northwest.
No, well, yeah. So normally, if someone from like in the north says that, it's always like hot pot, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's either hot pot or scouse. It's one or the other.
Or lobbies. They call it lobbies in St Helens.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You love it all.
It's basically like a stew, isn't it?
It's just beef stew. They have that in the Midlands.
I'm sure they do, MK. What do you have in the what do you call it in the Midlands, MK? Bit of a beef stew. It's
just meat, potatoes, carrots, onions
in a big pot.
Seasoning in a big pot. Yeah. So it's just scouse. It's great.
So Edinburgh.
Only makes me that for your birthday. Edinburgh. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. She never made it this year though. But then so I decided so a lot of people go to Edinburgh because they think, this is the make or break now. Go to Edinburgh, do a good run. All the agencies are going to come see me. It's going to change my life. But then you go up there and you realise it's actually not much. It's not that at all. Basically, you need to go up there, have a massive PR company behind you. You pay one of these agencies thousands of pounds to do your PR, or they pay it for you, and you just doing a deal with the devil because you're forever in their debt. They'll pay the $5,000 it costs to go up there. But then whenever you do a gig, they take a cut out of it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and very few people, certainly in the last, since I've been going up there 5-6 years, come back from it and the careers have, completely taken off. There's people who've won it because they have this Edinburgh, it was called the Perrier Award. Back in the day, people like Harry Hill won it, I think. Frank Skinner won it, and then it was huge. And
the likes of so I'm quite a big fan of Gavin Oates and the work he does now. He used to be in that world, didn't he? He did Edinburgh and all that.
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest.
I'll have to send you some stuff. So Gavin, he was a teacher, I think, and then he was a comedian. Now he sort of does a lot of motivational stuff.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of The Art of Being Brilliant?
No.
So the guy who wrote that, Andy Cope, him and Gavin did a collaboration book. I'll have to send you links to it because it's really, really good stuff. You'd like it actually.
Yeah.
But Gavin's really cool. I've seen him do stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I think, if I remember rightly, he was one of the lucky ones that kind of did pretty well from it, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I think back in the day, I mean, it's been going 20, 30 years, I think. 30, but it would have been since the early 90s it started becoming. It's always been an arts festival. So I think as an arts festival, it's been going for much longer. It was more like, poetry and acting and stuff. But comedy took over it in the 90s. This sun is making me realise how dirty my laptop screen is. It's just full of dust. Oh God, that's better.
We can't see it. So you're
I know. It's really distracting me. There you go. I can see you. It's like, when someone, if you have ready bread for you have ready bread for your breakfast, you have ready bread dust everywhere. It goes everywhere. That's how I just tried.
I've not had ready bread since 1987.
Well,
and I don't remember there being dust everywhere.
Your parents would have dealt with it. You would know. They sheltered you from it.
I was sheltered from the harshness of the ready bread dust.
The things that your parents hide from you. Ready bread dust is one of them.
The realities of life.
Yeah, it's a tough life. But that's what it was like. So what were we talking about then? Edinburgh. Yes. So I went up a few times just to experience it. I've done a couple of 10-minute spots up there. I thought it's brilliant to go up there and experience it all. But then by the time 2018 came around, which is when I done that show, I think I went to the Leicester Comedy Festival, saw some great shows there, and I thought, you know what, I would want to write my own show. Just want to go just test myself, do like a 45-minute, hour-long show, and just see how I go. And I just bit the bullet and just booked it early 2018, and then for no other reason other than just to do it, to say to myself that I've done it. So I've written a show, I've put it on, I've gone up there, I've had the bollocks to go and do it, and that's pretty much what I did. So the show was called 2012 because it was the year after I left O2, and my life just fell off a cliff, fell into loads of debt. The house I was renting out needed a new roof, needed damp proofing. I'd gone from earning X amount of money a year to earning pretty much half that. I was living off credit cards. I was going off. I'd go to the bank. I'd get £200 out, and then go into the bank and pay my credit card bills off for the money I've just got out from the credit cards. It just kind of spiraled. And there's a thing I put it on Facebook the other day actually, because remember it was just a few days after my 40th birthday, so it might have even been today. I don't know. It wasn't long after my 40th, and I got a letter off the credit card company saying was stopping your credit card limit because you're taking too much money out of cash, which I was annoyed with at the time, but it was the right thing to do, right? Anyway, I had loads of debt. Went to the bank. What can you do? Well, nothing. You're not earning enough money. Okay, so I rang up my mum and just started crying on the phone to my mum. I was 40 years of age. I was like, Mum, I don't know what to do. And I was like, because I was working ridiculously hard, and this is when I was in recruitment. It's just, it just burst into tears. I didn't see where I was going to go next because I had no cash. I was working. I was bringing in £1,200 a month, but paying out £1,800 a month.
Wow.
But with debts and stuff. So the show was basically about,
isn't it?
Oh, it was grim. Painful. And it was grim. So anyway, I went on this debt management plan, and it's all fine now. I got a debt management plan. I've got 18 months or so left to get rid of it. So it was all good. So the show was basically, I thought, what can I write about? I thought, well, I'll just write about that experience. That's why it's called 2012.
Right.
So while the Olympics was going on and everything was a real feel-good factor, my life just fell right out my ass, basically, which sounds horrific, really, doesn't it? So the show was about
like a recovery thing, almost like a healing thing, to write comedy about, write a show about it.
Probably. There was that, and there's I also, not to show how I pulled through it, but I wanted to write a show about something, because a lot of comedians, I'm not criticising them at all, they're all the ones that are much better than me. They go to Edinburgh, they basically just think of a title I don't know, Cat's Bollocks. Go, right, that's my show's called Cat's Bollocks now. But it's basically just their club sets. So they'll do whatever they go out and do in the clubs, which again, not criticising. Loads of people do well at that. But I actually wanted to just write a proper show about my life. So there was no jokes from my sets in there. And it made it quite funny. And I also, there was a bit of a message to it, because I wanted people to just tell people, look, if you are struggling with debt, just tell somebody. Because I told my mum.
Yeah.
And mum like gave me 200 quid and a big bag full of shopping when I went round to the house. Said, look, pay me back whenever you've got it. And then my mate Johnny, who was talking before he passed away, he was having his last chemotherapy session in 2012, and I told him about it, and he said, "Oh, you should go with this charity," because he was in the same position a few years ago, and they basically get in touch with all of the banks and they sort it all out. So at the end of the show,
or something.
Say again, sorry.
It's step change.
Yes,
that's the thing. Yeah,
exactly. Then, yeah,
I've been there.
So,
I know this pain very well.
Yeah. Well, there'd be loads of people who do but don't tell anybody.
Exactly that.
People kill themselves over it.
A lot of shame attached to it, guilt, and all sorts of things.
I read a story about somebody doing that. I was like, well, you don't need to. So the show was kind of inspired a little bit by that, and at the end of the show, it was all after people did laugh. It was quite funny. I just say, look, if you are struggling with debt, tell somebody, tell your friends, tell your parents, tell anybody, because there's ways out of it. And a few people approached me on Facebook afterwards saying, who was it that you went through? So just message me that no shame at all. So people, I always remember there was a lad on the very last day that I'd done it. There was a lad sat in the corner and he was from Liverpool. I was talking to him at the end, and you do like a bucket speech at the end because you're there for no money. Like, you pay what you think it was worth. I'd always cheekily say, forget the fact that I'm skint, when he decided how much you're going to put in. This guy put a £10 in, and you could tell he was a bit tearful. And I wanted to say to him, and I really regret, I should have said, look, do you want to come for a pint? Because it looked like he wants to chat, but I never did. I put the word out on Facebook when I got home, saying if anybody knows, it's a bit of a long shot. If he was from Liverpool. If anybody knows him, tell him to give me a shout. But we never. Unfortunately, got shared loads of times, but we never found him.
Oh,
so
that's nice though. That you've
and he gave me a tenner as well because he probably, because he obviously felt sorry. I mean, it was okay then.
Oh,
I got myself out of it a little bit more. Yeah, but I just wanted to let people know. Look, it's not the end of the world if you've got debt. So fucking what? I mean, pay it back.
Yeah.
I've never shared responsibility from it. I spent the money. A lot of it was because of the other house, but there was a lot of it because I was getting pissed every weekend to go on holiday and stuff when I shouldn't have done. So you take responsibility.
I think you and I are of a generation where before the crash, we all had money thrown at us. I remember egg card, mint card, Virgin Money, all of that ridiculous credit limit. Anyone would lend you money. You would go out and just get lashed on it, buy stupid stuff and all of that. And, that's how it was, before 2008, get money so easy.
Oh, is that the end?
You end up paying for it really badly down the line, don't you?
It's just
money. Yeah. And it's actually living on hardly anything is the least pain of it, isn't it? Because the biggest pain is that shame and that guilt and that sense of failure or humiliation or whatever else comes with it. That's actually a lot more painful than being skint.
Oh, definitely,
It does cause people tons of stress.
It's just money.
So it's good that you've got that. I really like the fact that your heart's in the right place with it, isn't it? It's not just making sure people have a really good time, which is a really good thing to do, but actually, maybe there's opportunities here where I can maybe change someone's life or reframe something for them with a different thought about it.
People got in touch over it, and hopefully there was people that didn't get in touch but still done something about it.
Yeah.
So I put it on at the Brindley Theatre.
Right. And you never know what ripple effect you're going to have, do you? By just speaking, just telling the truth, talking to somebody about. So you never know who that's going to affect, and you may never.
Because they could tell their friends or stuff. So if anybody out there is watching, if you're in debt, there's ways out of it.
There are always ways. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not worth worrying about it. I remember ringing up there's a Royal Bank of Scotland who I was with, who can go and fuck themselves, by the way. Still paying them. Sorry about that.
You know that Royal Bank of Scotland.
Yeah. Be warned. Freddie Jarvis he was a comedian actually. Freddie something got sacked for being shit at it, but got like £100 million bonus. Anyway, rang them up and said, look, this is a situation. I've got myself into a bit of a pickle. Can't afford to pay back these loans or credit cards anymore. I'm thinking of going on a credit card. A debt management plan. And this young shit said to me, if you go on a credit card plan, if you go on a debt management plan, we will destroy your credit rating. I said, well, he said, you can shove my credit rating up your ass. I'd rather eat and sleep at night than worry about you and your credit rating. But you let this shit.
Awful.
Yeah.
Like you're being punished like a,
we will destroy your credit rating. Oh, don't do that. Oh, okay, I won't eat.
Yeah.
Well, the fucking bastards, they would literally.
It's a really harsh world.
When they go on this debt management plan, the step change direct were amazing.
Yeah,
and they're like saying, look, every spare penny because so the first thing they done was got away from the banks.
Yeah.
Because they will take every last penny that you've got. They'll give you a budget of £18 a month to live on. And if you go a pound over that, if you another pound appears in your bank, they'll take it off you. So they said the first thing to do, just get away from them. But at the time, because they'd all basically it was banks that destroyed the whole economy, wasn't it? So loads of them were joined up together. So there was only a few. So I ended up going with Nationwide because I went with Lloyds at first, and so I don't know they're part of Halifax, or who I also had a credit card with. So yeah, they will take every.
I have my business account with Starling, and they're actually really, really cool. But they're powered by NatWest in the background.
Yeah,
you can't get. It's really hard to get away from the big boys.
Yeah, really because they would have all gone bust.
Yeah,
and they should have done.
I had some insider information back in the day about all of that I won't necessarily talk about publicly, but yeah, it was all a bit.
Seen the film The Big Short. Basically, they just gambled with everyone's mortgages and ruined everyone's lives and got billions of pounds out of it, and then got bailed out and got more billions of pounds. And then George Osborne sold. The Bank of Scotland wasn't in the film, but George Osborne sold it back to his mates, and it was we owned it because it was all our taxpayers' money.
Oh, it's all a big boys club, all of it.
Yeah, but they would literally have you on beans on toast for the rest of your life as long as they got their bloody 30 shekels.
Shekels. So let's take it back to comedy because I've got two final questions to ask.
Oh yeah, God yeah, blimey, comedy. None of that. But it was funny.
Two final questions to ask you to sort of round us up. The first one is, what advice would you give to somebody who's kind of thinking, I've got comedy bones in my body and I need to get them out in the world? Where do you start?
Well, just find your local comedy club would be a good way to start. That's Sarah Millican told me about because there's a whole world out there. There's loads of pubs that are doing open mic nights. There's these gong shows. If you're in the Northwest, just go to the Frog and Bucket, go and watch it and get your name down. It's so much easier now with social media to find them all. Yeah, and you've just got to give it a go. If you think you've got the funny bones, write 5-10 minutes of material, practice it, and just go and try. Because otherwise, if you don't try, you'll never know, will you? And if you do it and you don't like it at first, just don't give up.
Yeah. So it's getting out there, isn't it? Getting out of your comfort zone. Just give it a whirl. Give it a whirl.
Get off your ass. Basically, give it a go. Because I was, if I'd have packed in after my first gig, I might still be at O2.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had that because it's changed my life. Comedy. So many new friends. Met so many amazing people. Played 7-a-side with Jason Manford.
Nice.
Gigged on cruise ships. Gigged at festivals. Been up and down the country.
And all because you've had the resilience to keep going back and back and back.
Well, because I started really. Sarah Millican sent me that. I felt sick for 3 months. Put my name down. There was a big waiting list at the time. It's not so much now. I don't think you get on much quicker. But shit myself for 3 months. Was terrified, bag of nerves, died on my arse. But it took a year before I went back and done it again. So it's not for me. But then they just kept calling me back. And 2013, 14, that's when I started going for it. So just give it a go, but give it a proper go. Don't just try it once. Unless there's people who just go and try it once because they just wanted to do it.
Yeah, just as
that's absolutely fine.
List type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fine. There's some guys came and done one of my. I had like an open mic gig which didn't last very long, but they were doing something for charity, and the part of it was they wanted to do stand up, so they come down and done 5 minutes in my club. And said, "Well, I've done it now." So that's absolutely fine. If you want to just try it, go and do it. If you want to have a proper crack at it, then don't be disheartened if it doesn't go well at first, because it takes a while to kind of
try
unless you're Peter Kay, who won I think it's called the Northern Lights competition in 1997 in his second ever gig. Because he's just a phenomenon. Just like had one of them, he was just amazing.
Wow.
Amazing at it straight away. His first gig was a semi-final. Second gig was the final, and he won it. And look at him now.
I never knew that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's bloody sickening, I bet, though,
for everyone else. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't like him. I could off air, I could tell you a lot of stories, but he,
yeah.
Take it with
I remember so did you do the big O2 launch thing?
I went to that, yeah. Peter Kay was
on there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, do you know what? He's dead funny and everything, but I've seen him do all this stuff before, multiple times.
Yeah, well, I suppose
it must be hard because if you're gigging at that level, like you can't be original for every show you do. But
no, and everything once you've been on television, which was a problem I never had. Well, you've done like a 1 hour special, and it goes out on a DVD. That material's gone forever. Then
that's it.
You've now got to do it again next year. So a lot of top comedians have writers that work with them. Don't necessarily write all the stuff for them, but will kind of.
It's like a creative, like a think tank sort of team, isn't it?
Yeah.
That collaborative intelligence. So my final question for you, Mr. Havey, is, and I'm putting you on the spot here, who would be your rebel role model? So what personal people in your life or famous folk would be the epitome of rebellion for you? Someone who does their own thing and doesn't care what anyone else thinks.
God, Christ, in comedy, there's loads of them. But in terms of resilience, I always tell this to people because people say there's a comedian that's very divisive. People either love him or they hate him. Not because he's like offensive or anything. It's Michael McIntyre, right?
Yeah.
People go, oh, Michael McIntyre, shit. I don't know how he's famous. I would say to anybody who thinks that, read his book and read.
Right.
Well, okay, I'll tell you. So basically, his dad was a television writer. His dad wrote for the Kenny Everett show, and he had this. I remember that. Kenny Everett was always around Michael McIntyre's house. But his mum and dad split up because his mum started having an affair with one of the builders who came round to the house. So his mum and dad split up. His dad died when he was relatively young, I think. They buried him up in Edinburgh, actually, the Edinburgh Festival.
Oh, God. Anyway,
but he had this old. I think it was his grandma. I think it was his dad's mum who idolized Michael McIntyre, but really smothered him quite a bit. And then Michael McIntyre got this girlfriend called Kitty, and his grandma hated her. Whenever they went round, whenever like Michael was in the room, she said, "Why are you bothering with my grandson? He's useless. He's never going to this, never going to do that. He's never going to amount to anything." Basically, because she was trying to split them up. So it got to the point they'd been going out for a while. His grandma said, "You either get rid of that girl," because his grandma was, by the way, his grandma was really wealthy and was basically bankrolling while he was trying to be a comedian. She was paying his bills for him. But his grandma said, "If you don't get rid of her, then I'm cutting you out." So he's like, "Well, you have to cut me out then." So his grandma cut him out, and he had no money. They were living in some tiny flat in London. He had this old, I think it was a Vauxhall Corsa. He said he had to lend money. He had a gig in Cornwall. He had to lend money for petrol to drive to the gig. Completely skint. Was doing pretty well. Went up to Edinburgh, had a good Edinburgh show, good Edinburgh run. Thought this is going to be it, but just couldn't kind of break that next level. But he just kept going and kept going and kept going, even though he didn't have any money. And then one day it just kind of just clicked like that. And then he's like obviously one of the most successful and wealthiest. He made, I think in 2013 or something, maybe before that, it was like 10 million quid he made.
Wow.
But he went from being absolutely potless to just not giving up, So when it comes to comedy, that's why whenever it always gets me back up a little bit. Guy, shit him, he shouldn't be famous.
Yeah.
Well, you read his book and see what he went through to get where he is today. And then
I wonder whether it's because he's well spoken and all of that, and maybe people just think he was born into wealth and therefore he's had it easy. Maybe there's that part.
A little bit, yeah. Jack Whitehall gets a lot of that.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, I also love. He was quite fortunate.
Really
His dad, he's brilliant. Yeah. His dad was quite well up. He was a big agent for loads of big stuff. He would have had
contact.
A few doors open for him that he wouldn't have done. But if he was shit, he wouldn't have got anywhere.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
No
I love
one's
him.
going to put their name to someone who's crap, are they?
No, like they say, "I'll give it a go because his dad, mate of so and so's or whatever."
Yeah.
But yeah, if he was shite, they wouldn't have bothered with him.
Exactly.
So yeah, just look at if there's anyone that you look up to, anyone. Sorry, the opposite. Anyone that you think, oh, they're actually shit. How have they made it? Just do a bit of digging and find out.
Yeah.
There's more to it.
People have always got their story, haven't they, behind what you might see of as an overnight sensation, or someone who seems to have it easy or seems to have it all. There's always a story behind it.
Give it a bit of respect, especially in comedy, because you don't get to the top in comedy without working your ass off, like ridiculous.
Well, this is kind of one of the things that I'm passionate about with the whole concept of rebellion, that we don't have to all like each other. We're not always going to be each other's cup of tea, but respect for people who are doing their own thing authentically as themselves, I think is always due. You know,
Definitely.
You don't, like, we're all hanging around in this Facebook group. We don't all have to be each other's thing. You know, we don't all have to like how other people are doing their thing, but just respect the fact that they are doing their thing.
Yeah,
and courage.
Our friend Ripley's a shining example of that.
She'll
know when she's changing name to Ripley for a kickoff.
Yeah,
there'll be people in one corner who work with going, "Oh, what a weirdo," and she does like crystal readings and stuff like that, and she's shaved her head. But so what?
Absolutely,
that's what she wants to do,
and she's the happiest she's ever been.
And
living her dreams, dreams she didn't even know she had. She's amazing.
Yeah. So
wouldn't the world be boring if we were all the same and we liked each other?
Yeah, she's great. Rippers.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, just give people that if someone's out there doing their own thing, even if they fail at it, or you think it's shit, have a bit of respect.
The credit that they do.
There won't be many people in this. I wouldn't have thought there'd be many people in this group who don't think like that.
Well, I hope so.
You like to think, you'd like to think not, but you never know, do you? But just have a bit of respect and then just try doing it your fucking self is what I would say.
Agreed. Put yourself in someone else's shoes just for a moment and see it from that angle. Well, Colin,
this has been great.
Thank you so much. We're going to drop links in for Giggle Shack, Giggle Shack stuff. We'll get your glass half full stuff in there as well if you want to. Send me some stuff and I'll drop it in for you, or you can drop it in yourself, whatever you prefer. And we might even put your show on one day. Who knows?
We can. Yeah, it's been really good actually. I could talk about myself all night.
I love it. Right, well, I am going to hit end broadcast. You and I will stay on for a moment just to tie up the loose ends. But thank you very much, Rebels and Rule Breakers. If you're watching this on replay, as always, put in a little comment. Tell us you're watching it on replay, and please do follow Cole's stuff for Giggle Shack when you see the links come up. And
like they always say on the BBC or something, if you're affected by any of the things mentioned in this,
so true.
The debt thing, in particular,
absolutely right.
Feel
That's
free.
That's a proper serious message. Yeah.
Either speak to Emma, she'll give you my details, or just go and look. Step Change Direct. Speak to somebody, because it'll change your life, and you can always just pay it back another time. But do it at your own rate. Fuck the banks is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I massively agree with that. I think that is a really, really good message to actually round this up on. And guys, it's just bloody money. It's money. Your happiness in your life is worth much more than any bank account ever.
Correct. They don't need the money, mate. You need it more.
Too right.
They'll get their pound of flesh. Like my mate Kingo, one final quote: "If you die in debt, you've won the game of life." Although he is loaded, so he can't say that.
Easy to say.
It's only ever rich people who say money doesn't matter. Will you try being fucking stupid?
And
tell me that.
Money doesn't make you happy. Well, I'll give it a good go, thanks.
Yeah, neither does having sprouts for your dinner because you've got no bloody money. Which I used to do with a bit of ketchup on.
Nice. On that note, Rebels, we shall leave you to your Monday evening. And
thanks everyone if you've been watching.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you soon. Let's wave.